Thank you very much for the very kind introduction. Happy to be here today to present our BERD Academy under the banner of Open Education for Research with Unstructured Business Economics and Related Data. To follow my topic today, I would like to present one leading question that I will follow and refer to a lot today, which is how we can unlock research and research data potential by offering open education on data science and data management, specifically in business economics and related disciplines. First, to give some context, even though it was shortly presented or introduced already, just a few words on the NFDI again, even though I'm also pretty sure most of in the room have heard of it before. NFDI stands for the National Research Data Infrastructure, which is a national effort by the federal government and all 16 federal states to make research and scientific data available, interconnected, and sustainable for long-term use. And this is done by consortia, which represent a broad spectrum of scientific disciplines. Amongst those, the project I'm working for, BERD NFDI, which is already highlighted here, which is the consortium for business economics and related data, with a focus on unstructured research data. And there are several institutions involved, universities, libraries, and research institutions that share the common interest and work on the activities in this project. Within BERD, the main purpose, in the same vein as NFDI, is to reduce barriers of accessing, processing, analyzing, and sharing research data, in our case, business economics and related data with focus on unstructured. There are many activities taking place to make this happen. You can categorize it in a few categories or try to do so. One category is data. There are several data portals that are being developed to facilitate access to data. So taking the burdens and challenges that researchers may have when they want to publish their data, while at the same time raising findability and accessibility to these data if it's easier to be published. Then there's a methods section to find the right tools to make use of these data. Several services to support researchers, specifically in data management issues that arise. That can be legal issues, that can be more specific data management plans, anything you can run into as a researcher or as those that provide these services. And the main part we will talk about today, and I will talk about today, the training for gaining the necessary skill set to work with these data. So the question is, why do we focus so much on training, and why will I talk a lot about open education in the context of open science? Well, this comes from the understanding that simply providing a space for sharing data and code and what comes with it might not be sufficient, even though it's a very important first step, but that these data actually get used and rightfully used is very dependent on the skill set of the users of these data. So what we aim for is a kind of reciprocal interplay of data usage and training, so that we have the fitting education for the data and methods of the users of business economics and related disciplines, that we connect it with the BERD services that I shortly teased here, that then feeds back into the wider community, research community, with newly accessible data and refined methods. For achieving this goal of placing training where we want it to be placed, there comes the BERD Academy into play. This is our umbrella for all the training activities that happen from our project on the topics of data science and data management. This includes a wide array of topics. So it can be data science and statistics methodology, practical coding issues, training on reproducibility, FAIR principles, and also legal and ethical aspects of research data. In this time, since mid-2022, we were able to offer more than 60 modules for more than 1,100 participants that we happily look back to and hope to see many more in the future. The audience that we address there can briefly be categorized into categories, here represented by the academic hat and the books. I will start on the left-hand side, but maybe you can already guess what will be the books. The academic hat represents the researchers under the motto of bridging the gap, coming also from the experience that for a long time until recently, unstructured data was not so much covered in traditional business economics and related study programs, so traditional bachelor and master programs, which gained a lot more track recently. But for working with these data, researchers need specific skills, even though we can build on what they learned about their more traditional structured data, but there is new content to be learned to be able to handle this confidently. And what we also see, there are very diverse applications, especially in such a broad term as business economics and related, which includes the social sciences as a whole. So a very flexible approach to education is needed to cover those different applications. The other side are the data service providers, or not the other side, but they're very much connected to the researchers that we see here as multipliers, because data librarians or data stewards that work in institutions such as libraries, they are the institutional anchors for sharing and accessing data. They may be the first contact person for researchers that want to publish something through their library, that want to access other data that is available there. So there is also a wealth of knowledge to gain there. And there is a lot of material on data management, for example, but one idea would be to roll out training here on a broader and scaling basis with those libraries as important partners as they are those institutional anchors. Generally, the idea for both audiences that we have fit for purpose education that is accessible as possible to reach as many people as possible, but also fits what they specifically need to learn. This we mainly address by our formats. We are very much aware that all the audiences that we have, they are professionals. They are usually not full-time students, which can visit one course after the other, but they work full-time and have limited time resources to participate in education. So we want formats that are flexible and diverse to fit those different schedules, and that can also fit different contents based on how much time is needed and how much or what the format should look like to convey these contents perfectly. We can categorize this in two columns. On the left-hand side, the one factor is the time that the education takes place. So we have synchronous formats such as live workshops that someone is teaching you at the same time that you're learning it. The asynchronous format would be that you learn on your own on self-paced material, or the combination of both, which I will talk a lot more about later, the flipped classroom approach to fulfill both needs. The location aspect on the right-hand side, that is probably also not surprising to you, that we offer online courses and workshops and content, but we also very much encourage in-person events, so to even more foster networking and the exchange that you can better facilitate in person than maybe online on the screen. And the combination of both would be the hybrid format that participants can choose in which format they rather want to participate. And you can combine the left-hand and right-hand side to your liking to get a really diverse array of different learning formats to distribute. Content-wise, with the time today, I cannot tell you all the courses and workshops that we have, but our website is very informative on this. What I want to highlight is that our courses aim to be designed to concern real-world problems, that participants can directly transfer the newly acquired skills to their actual work, especially considering, again, their limited time resources. They need something that they can apply. And for this, we can maybe take a use case, such a researcher here in environmental, social, and governance that realizes that all the answers to their research question lie in openly available company reports. But this also means that all this information is kept in several different PDF documents, and which is a wealth of data, but not a type of data they worked before, because they only know tabular data and not to use this in a research context. So this is where we would come into place with a course that conveniently here fits exactly this use case, which is how to turn PDFs into research data, where they learn OCR, where they learn web scraping and NLP to make use of these data in the research context. So after visiting this course, then hopefully they can extract their data set, that they can come back to their research idea, which they turn into their paper, have prepared data and code that they hopefully then also share, make accessible, or at least very transparent what they work with for the wider research community that it comes back to. And this course of turning PDFs into research data is also a very good example to demonstrate this connection between those real-world problems, new data that develops, and education that I mentioned in the beginning, and that I see here central also for the open education aspect. Because this course stems from a fellowship, which is called Data Science for Social Good, which was hosted in Munich in 2023 and 24, where 2 teams of young researchers work for 2 months on a data-related project that serves the public good. So this particular project here was about building plans of North Rhine-Westphalia, which is a perfect example for unstructured data that are available, but not necessarily accessible, because it's more than 20,000 single PDFs that you would need here, and which might not feel so feasible for any researcher to access. So in this project, they downloaded these PDFs, extracted information from there, processed it, and presented it in an interactive web app. And this is really beneficial on its own to be able to explore these data now in this web app, this Shiny app. But of course, then also the data on the code was published to be available for anyone who wants to work with it, and also in a very documented format that from this you can already gain knowledge on how to do these kind of project. But then again, we come back to what I said in the beginning. Now we would have data and code in an archive sitting there, and we cannot be sure if people would actually use it or that they have the necessary knowledge to use it. So what we did here is to turn this into a course, which comes back to this example of turning PDFs into research data, which conveys the methods used to create these new data and applies it on a different tabular state. So also generating new data value there while conveying really applicable methods. Now I would talk a bit about how this learning experience looks like in such a course while staying with this example of turning PDFs into research data. And one important aspect here, and maybe if you teach in these contexts, you also have made experience with this, are prerequisites. Because generally, we want those courses to be as accessible as possible, to really start at the lowest possible level that you left maybe university, you never heard about using PDFs before, and now you can do it when visiting this course. But there's also a balance to be aimed at between those low barriers and meeting the right course level with the right participant level. Because if people are overwhelmed with the contents because they're missing certain knowledge, or if they are underwhelmed because it's way too basic for them, then this is not a good match, and that's not great for participants and also not for us, because we of course want to address people that can benefit the most from that. And that's also what we noticed there, that researchers are very heterogeneous due to not only their academic background, which might also be a few years in the ago, but also their professional background, because since then they were learning on the job, they were applying different things. And one example is the programming languages, that some people are maybe more proficient in R, some more in Python, some have used neither of those or can very well handle both. So it's important that we make very clear here which language this course takes place in, but also if you can maybe visit it still if it takes place in Python, but that you only know R and it's so transferable that you still get along. And at the same time, importantly, is to bridging those gaps again that I mentioned at the beginning. We offer self-paced courses on both, on Python and on R, that people can participate in any time they want, and hopefully then bridge any knowledge gaps before visiting the more advanced or more application-oriented courses. Very much along with this goes the application aspect with prerequisites and offering something as open education, because generally any interested participant is welcome to us. But we also see risingly so in the last years that demand is high. So for this course, for example, we had about 100 registrations, including the waiting lists, for only about 25 seats that we can cover. So you could then say, let's do it just first come, first serves principle-wise, that the ones that are earlier, they get the benefit of the doubt to participate. But judging by the prerequisites that I mentioned, this is also not so balanced because it also might not lead to such a good participant experience if people register very quickly without maybe matching if this course is really what they want or need. And then we can already calculate that might not all people show up or a low number of people show up, and maybe many drop out after the first session. So the idea here is that still the entry requirements should be as burden-free as possible to not make very lengthy applications. But for now, we will always ask for a very short description why the applicants want to take the course to ensure this right fit, and base this mainly on motivation, so that the topics should really fit what they want to do specifically in practical with their research. And as our mission as the Consortium for Business Economics and Related Data, then also researchers working in those fields will have some priority. To talk more about this format it takes place, I can say that all of our more extensive courses run online in the flipped classroom design. This has the benefit that we can ensure that participation is possible from anywhere and with very limited time resources that you need to plan synchronously. So what does this mean? Those courses usually run 4 to 5 weeks. Per week, you're expected to watch the video lectures, which are about 30 to 60 minutes, then take on readings that are selected for this week, work on assignments that are either also scheduled for that week or for over 2 weeks or for the full run of the course in a project type. And then the only time you have to be on schedule and not can schedule your own is the meeting of 60 minutes per week, which is to bring your questions that you have on the material to discuss it with the instructor and the participants. Specifically for our example course here, this means that here's a screenshot of the first unit where they learn how to use or what web scraping is generally, what is the theory on it, watch those about 1 hour of videos on their own schedule, do the readings, and then come to the meeting with all the practical questions they have. And what you can maybe also read here in the upper part of the screen, we have an example project here that they can work on, but the idea is really that they come with their own scraping project in mind. So that also raises the motivation that you get something out of it if you can bring your own project that you want to work on, and that you already deal with the specific problems you might run into when you then want to transfer that knowledge from this course to your own project. And this goes along with the second unit, where it gets even more practical, because here they get demonstrated how code like this works, do the readings, and more centrally work on the assignments that specifically for this web scraping they get charged with, and then can discuss again in the meeting with the instructor where issues lie and where maybe they can solve them before they hand it in. This then gets repeated for unit 3 and 4, so for week 3 and 4 on the topics of optical character recognition and natural language processing. And if the participants participate in those meetings and complete both assignments, they will receive feedback and hopefully pass those assignments to get some kind of confirmation of completion. Many of those courses aim to really address an entrance level because, as I mentioned at the beginning, we want to bridge the gap of where you don't know where to start to learn those kind of specific methodologies that you're not familiar with. But we also want to invite to deepen those learning paths and follow them in more detail. So if this course, for example, because you worked the first time with text as data, caught your interest in NLP, natural language processing, then you can visit a workshop that we will host this year again on specifically that topic, or go even deeper and address active learning with another workshop, or there's also self-learning material available from our colleagues at the LMU in Munich that covers this in very much extent. One very important aspect here, if we talk about open education and open science in general, are open educational resources. Of course, we don't want those courses to be just one and done for a very specific group that had the opportunity to work with it, but to make it as available as possible and as sustainable as possible. And this is another great benefit of those flipped classroom courses, because this teaching material that we have there, most of it, bar the meeting and the feedback you get on your assignments, is perfectly self-sufficient. So you can at any time access it and watch those videos, maybe again or for the first time. And this is also great material that other teachers can use, because we publish it as under CC BY 4.0 in our repository. Another evolution of this is not just to make this material available, but to process it in a way that it's more book-like, or in this case as a booklet. So this is also a flipped classroom course, this time on reproducibility, which is more extensive in the sense that it also has those videos as shown from the other course, but there is text for you to guide you through it. And so this experience gets even more self-sufficient. And also importantly, as mentioned at the beginning, with what we offer in BERD, are the service part of our project. So it doesn't just end with those courses, because maybe also not every content fits in such an extensive course of several weeks. Because, for example, important aspects such as legal or ethical issues that researchers or some researchers may not have a very high intrinsic motivation to participate in, compared to practical or methodology focused topics, that we can convey maybe better in tools or in services. So we have an interactive virtual assistant for researchers that want to check if their research data is GDPR compliant, that they can click through completely on their own and discuss it then later maybe with the data protection officers or other responsible people in their project. But that first takes off this barrier to, or panic to even engage in those legal issues that some researchers may have. And similarly, there are several offers on OCR from the University Library in Mannheim. There's an OCR recommender where you can also answer questions to your research data, and it will recommend you the tool that is the most suitable to work with these data. Or they also offer consultation hours or a help desk that you can lean into, but it's really about connecting the community as well, and offer services that they can access at any time and don't have to wait for a specific course on a specific topic that may be very urgent at a certain point. For the last part of this presentation, I would like to take a look forward into the future. We're working on constantly refining our courses and developing new ones. This is also based on several types of sources. So first of all, of course, we evaluate our existing courses, usually with surveys or with focus talks. And there are also new topics arise, or we notice that certain topics were not covered enough that require the new courses. So this is a very organic flow, so to say. We also get a lot of input from our project partners that work with these kind of data every day in their activities within the project, or their peers of this research community. And we host several community events or participate in there to be up to date on what is happening on that regard. We also always develop new formats to foster broad involvement of all kinds of stakeholders. One example is a data challenge that we did for the first time in the end of last year on a specific data type, in this case, mobile phone data, and inviting not just researchers, but also research data providers, in this case, Telefonica, a big mobile phone data company, to see how can we bring those together, how maybe can we convince also those providers to make these data a bit more available and accessible, and to get those different perspectives to learn from it, what is the current state of art on these specific data type. And all this we distill into our academy to develop new content. And this also reaches out to you, that we are always really eager to hear from you, from this community that, for example, here the ZBW gathers, but also all your peers on the socials and that you work with regularly. whether you have any unstructured business economics or related data that you work with or want to work with that is not accessible yet. If there are any specific issues or general challenges that you see or run into, or if there are any other thrilling new topics, can also be substantive topic, don't have to be just methodological ones. We're really eager to hear from that and gather that and see that we probably can make something really beneficial out of that. And to close it in exactly that sense as well, there's a new format that we have coming up to exactly share those kind of ideas, which is the BERD Unconference workshop series, which is the new format this year, which is different to the traditional conference style, where you have a very set topic and you have a call that people follow and you get accepted or declined. This is really to bring everything to the table that that you're occupied with in the context of these kind of data. So it can be any data-related topic, such as reproducible research, unstructured data, or artificial intelligence. And this really thrives on the participation and group energy. So also the agenda is very fluid and dynamic, that it starts with ideas on the first day and then develops over the second day. And the first one is coming up just in March already in Cologne, and registration is open since today. So happy that you scan the QR code maybe or visit our website, and would be very glad to see you there. Right. Then I can just invite you also to follow our newsletter, where you not only will get the newest information on our courses, but also all the other many great services that BERD has to offer that I couldn't go deeper into today. Or also, yeah, on social media, you will find us on the usual channels. Yeah, with that, I would like to come to an end.